Asante. Kakamega oye! Kakamega oye! Youth Tivim! Youth Tialala! Comrades power! Huh? Are there comrades in the room? Comrades power! Asanteni sana kwa kunikaribisha hapa siku ya leo. Na pia nataka kusema asanteni sana, mlipokea mwaliko wangu na mkakuja kwa wengi. So mtaniruhusu I make my presentations into 3. First, I will read my official statement. Then after that, I will engage in addressing some of the concerns that have been raised in this forum by your leadership here. And then finally, if it will be necessary, pengine nitakuzia siasa kidogo. Because, you know, a lot of times people say that we should not talk politics. But I think it is lack of understanding of our constitution and lack of understanding of how various offices need to operate. Cabinet secretaries, we are not civil servants. I did not appear in any interview by Public Service Commission like my principal secretary is here. I was appointed politically and I leave the office politically. And therefore I must act political. Tena ningependa kusema vile wengine wamesema hapa mbele yangu ama mbeleni, mimi pia ni Mluya. Wasuba ni Waluya. Wale wanaongea Kisuba sanifu wanaweza engage na Wamaragoli bila shida yoyote. So mimi nimekuja nyumbani, tutaongea kinyumbani, hata kama sitaongea lugha, juu hata nyinyi mko na watoto wenyu wengi wanaishi huko Nairobi na wajui Kiluya. So I'm not the only lawyer who is not able to speak Kiluya. So wacha kwanza nianze na official address. And I want to remind you that this event we are holding today is not an academic exercise. I made a commitment when I got into this office with the people of Kenya that I'm going to change the tradition at the National Treasury, where people sit on the 14th floor and push papers and make decisions without visiting watu mashinani ndiye wajue ni shida gani wananchi wako nazo. Kwa hivyo nikitoka hapa, it would be criminal, let me say, if nothing comes out of our discussion here today. So at least at the bare minimum, there should be a demonstration in the coming budget that I was in Kakamega and that I held a meeting with the people of Kakamega, and I will talk about that once I finish my official statement. So let me start with the big people in the room, the representatives from the University Students Association, our esteemed student team members and members of the business community represented here on the table, members of Bunge la Wananchi, and I want to also mention the governor. He has left, but who is also my professional colleague. He was once my chairman. Principal secretaries, my principal secretaries, the two of them who are in the room. The national government, the Ngao, let me put it in short. Ngao, as represented by the county commissioner, thank you my brother, and your entire team. I will not forget the grassroots leadership, the members of county assembly, the people who engage with the wananchi on day-to-day basis, as opposed to some of us who sit in Nairobi throughout the week. These ladies and gentlemen are always with you, and they know the problems that people face much more than Mbadi would do. I want to also recognize you. Kipra and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, again, good afternoon. Let me start by extending to you in this room a warm welcome to this stakeholder engagement forum. I wish to thank all of you for finding time to attend this very critical event that provides us with an opportunity to share our views on the management of public resources in the country, and particularly in the budget process, more so as it relates to our development agenda. This process builds up not only from the meeting that was held on 10th of December 2025 in Nairobi, where I launched the National Budget Students Forum with the sole purpose of embedding a youth-centric perspective into our national economic decision-making process, but also from my previous engagements with Bunge la Wananchi on budget process. I hope you still remember that last year I did a historical engagement at Jivanji Garden. I think I was the first public officer or cabinet minister or even cabinet secretary or minister for that matter to go public and engage in Jivanji Garden with the people of Kenya. During the students' launch, it was agreed on the need for a wider engagement with the youth of this country in their respective regions on matters pertaining to public finance management. Further, in view of the recent government efforts on privatization, it has been deemed fit to broaden this engagement to include also the business community, because they understand more issues of privatization or doing business, and the Bunge la Wananchi for a more comprehensive stakeholder information and participation. The successful engagement with the Bunge la Wananchi in the last financial year could only be built upon. Feedback from this engagement has been that this must continue, that we should continue with the engagement. So the National Treasury's engagement with members of the business community is also not new. Under my watch, it has definitely been enriching in shaping our resolve, or my resolve, to have in place more inclusive policies that allow more Kenyans to participate in public resource management. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to emphasize that this is not just a policy initiative, but rather it is a legal obligation rooted in our Constitution, Article 201A, which mandates for public participation in all financial matters so as to enhance transparency, accountability, efficient utilization of resources, and value for money in the management of our public resources. At the National Treasury, we have come to the realization that the government alone cannot effectively respond to the multifaceted challenges facing our country, particularly on unemployment, gaps in skills development, digital literacy, entrepreneurship, and inclusive governance for a more democratic dividend. In this regard, I have prioritized stakeholder participation as a key dimension of governance and one of the pillars for a sustainable development. We shall enhance collaboration with our stakeholders, including the youth, the private sector, experts, civil society organizations, volunteers, and local communities, which is more critical. So by forging partnership and collaboration, the government will harness the ideas, skills, and resources of diverse stakeholders to better deliver policies in transformative ways and address the existing gaps in financial, human, and technical resources. So I wish to reiterate that the youth are a significant demographic of our country, making up 75% of the population, with a potential for contributing towards economic development of the country in this regard. Their voices must be central to how we plan, allocate, and utilize our resources. This has therefore necessitated a shift in public financial management towards inclusive and participatory governance, where citizens, including the youth, actively engage and participate in policy formulation and act as co-creators of government policies and services. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has also adopted privatization as a strategic economic policy shift to promote efficiency in the economy by subjecting more services to market forces, to improving competitiveness, revenue generation, aid in fiscal consolidation pathway by reducing government spending on efficient state corporations and market development by deepening Kenya's capital market. I think on that, I will come back to it to explain a few things, because the member of County Assembly who spoke here had challenged me or asked me on certain questions or concerns to address. And I think also the same concern was addressed from the panel right in front of you. So the objective of our privatization agenda is to do the following, is to ease the burden of governance of these institutions from the government to the private sector, who are better equipped for the market economy. The National Treasury will in this regard continue with sound macroeconomic policies to enhance resilience and create a conducive environment for the private sector, including the local business communities, to thrive. And I will address some of the concerns that were raised regarding what next, regarding the cost, regarding security, including data security. I will address that relating to Safaricom. But I will also speak to your concerns about fuel prices regarding possible privatization of KPC. This strategic response is actually anchored in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and also on the medium-term plan, MTP4. These frameworks prioritize sectors with high youth employment potential, such as agriculture, micro, small, and medium enterprises, housing sector, health, and the digital and creative economy. So these sectors are not only engines of growth, but also platforms for innovation, entrepreneurship, and job creation for the youth. Over the recent past, the youth of this country have expressed themselves over important national issues, which included high cost of living, unemployment, and governance transparency. I think we are still, this is still very fresh in our heads about what happened in 2024. What we saw, something that was precedent setting in this country, was actually a reaction by our youth on a number of issues. Key among them was the issue of cost of living. Second was unemployment. Our youth is protesting unemployment. They come out of colleges well-trained, armed with expertise, but there are no jobs. So they are protesting loudly, sometimes violently. We must listen to them. The last one is on issues of governance. The youth are simply reacting to opulence that they see being exhibited by public officers, yet at the same time, they feel they are not getting the services that they should get from their government. And so that is the cause for the reaction of the students. And these concerns are valid and demand our immediate attention. Otherwise, we will lose our country. We must respond, we must react, we must act on these concerns. The government has actually committed itself to transforming these frustrations into constructive dialogue and tangible action. This forum, therefore, provides the perfect opportunity to provide our feedback on the necessary actions from the government to address these challenges. So during this process, we will welcome positive critique of our public financial management systems and policies to shape the budget process. Your active engagement in this process will ensure efficient and transparent use of public funds, ensuring that resources allocated to address youth empowerment achieves the intended objectives. And I will request that the presentations, and I must give you credit, I actually listened to the presenters here. Very informative. Very informative. Beginning with the first speaker who came from the business community. My friend, as you are reading, I really felt challenged that you are going to the core of even taxation and proposing tax measures. I will request that your presentations, you do some write-up for us and submit them. Our people will collect your presentations. So during the launch of this process, I was elated to have received a written memorandum This one we did in Nairobi, outlining some practical measures through which we can enhance financial support for students in tertiary institutions. We have noted the valuable feedback, which includes strengthening financial support for student financing, reforming students' loan financing through fiscal policy, targeted student grant funding for vulnerable students, facilitate provision of affordable student accommodation, and establishing an emergency student support fund. And just to demonstrate to you that this is not an academic exercise, after engaging with the students, I will report here today that, for example, in the financial year that is progressing, 25-26, for Higher Education Loans Board, we had provided 41 billion. But now, in this proposed BPS, if you have looked at it, we are proposing 58 billion for Higher Education Loans Board. That is an increase of 17 billion shillings. And on the university, what we call the money that we support the students, is not the one that we put and is not a loan. Pardon? Yes. It was 16 billion, but we are moving it to 34 billion. So we are putting under scholarship 34 billion and under Higher Education Loans Board 58 billion. That is the proposal. So that is an increase from 57 billion, if you add those two numbers, to 92. An increase of about 35 billion. This is a reaction to address the concerns that students have raised. And I'm looking at how we can fund even high schools better in the next financial year. So that this talk that government is defunding education, which is not true, because look, in 2022 to now, the money that is going to education has increased in this proposed budget by 150 billion. If you compare the budget that was allocated for education in 2022 and compare it to what we have proposed for 2026, this is an increase of about 150 billion. Now going to 748 billion. From 703 billion last financial year. That's an increase of 45 billion under the Ministry of Education. But we can even do more. So as we engage, we are also looking at our numbers and give more money to education. A society that fails to educate their people can never progress. So we will consolidate all this alongside the views that we will be receiving from other regional forums during the financial year 2026-2027 budget preparation and in the medium-term budget process. Furthermore, we are also aware that the financial constraints facing our public institutions impact the quality of education and future prospects for our youth. Our strategy emphasizes increased funding, infrastructure development, and curriculum reforms to equip students with skills relevant to the evolving job market, particularly in areas like artificial intelligence, data science, green technologies, and vocational trades. So those are our areas of focus: artificial intelligence, data science, green technologies, and vocational trades. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're aware, the government has been in the process of formulating 2026-2027 budget and the medium-term budget policy. We have in this regard prepared a draft 2026 budget policy statement containing the proposed policies and resources limits for the period. So we are proposing policies and the limit, the budget or the resource envelope. This document has already been uploaded on the National Treasury website for public review and comments. I am looking forward to receiving valuable comments to inform the finalization before we submit to the National Assembly of Parliament by mid-February. I wish to urge for your concerted effort to enable us build a Kenya where opportunities are accessible to all, where youth are empowered to lead, and where our collective aspirations become reality. Together, we can forge a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient nation. Ladies and gentlemen, privatization, if I come back to privatization a bit before I conclude my official speech, privatization is often part of a broader process of structural reform. Privatization transactions are very complex and require careful consideration of a number of issues. Well-designed and implemented privatization policies are essential to ensure credibility of reforms, to help governments achieve their objectives, and to create efficient and competitive markets for goods and services. So privatization of state-owned enterprises ushers in the private sector to participate in commercial activities that GOEs are undertaking, that is government-owned enterprises. This is necessary because the private sector carries out commercial activities more efficiently than the public sector, especially in a competitive industry. So by the way, I hope you are aware that you as an individual and your private businesses are included when I make reference to the private sector. Private sector is known to be efficient in running business. Actually, all governments are bureaucratic. There is no government that is not bureaucratic. Governments world over are bureaucratic. So if you want to enhance efficiency, you reduce government involvement in business activities, especially where there is competition. So the benefits of privatization include, as opposed to your fears, the benefits of privatization should include lower prices, better quality of goods and services produced, wider choices for consumers, more innovation, minimal red tape in decision making, and less corruption. That is the elephant in the room, corruption. To safeguard these benefits of privatization, the government has a social obligation to maintain a fair business environment through appropriate regulations and policies. So even as we privatize, the government will still retain the responsibility of ensuring that we regulate the environment or the business environment through regulations and policies. Already, Kenya has really matured. Kenya has developed a fairly robust regulatory environment with the Competition Authority of Kenya overseeing all sectors of the economy, supported by sector-specific regulators such as Communication Authority of Kenya, among others. Privatization as a key tool to address the following three major economic balances, that is government debt, public expenditure, and revenue raising. In this regard, a robust program must be designed to address fiscal sustainability challenges by limiting government debt, constraining budget deficits, and promoting counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Having pursued fiscal consolidation, ladies and gentlemen, in the past, let me say 3 years, the policy has now reached optimal levels and hence cannot be pushed further. The government tried to push further more taxes in 2024, and we know the outcome. That is not an option. No more increased taxation for Kenyans. The best we can do is only to reduce them. Because Kenyans have said no. You can't force them. And by the way, you will be unfair. If you push more taxes on Kenyans, you are unfair. Because taxes reduce private wealth. Taxes will reduce your wealth whether you like it or not. Although we have to pay it. Isn't it? But it reduces your wealth. If your salary is $1 million and 300,000 goes to government, see, your wealth will come down from 1 million to 700,000. So without doing anything, without consuming anything directly, your wealth has gone down in anticipation of collective services that you get from the government. So taxes is not the best thing. In fact, we always tell people, those of us with a background in finance, that when you are taxing, you must be very careful. First, tax wealth, tax the rich. Don't go for business, tax the rich. Then you come to income. If the money you are getting from the rich is not enough, you come to income. At the very least, then you go to business. But we are only going to business, to tax business, because we don't have enough money coming from the rich. I wish we could get it from the rich alone. And we stop there. But taxing businesses affect creation of employment. Because if I make 1 million from business, and you're taking 300,000. If you leave me with that 300,000, I can expand my business. By expanding business, I will employ more people. So the best thing is to reduce to the bare minimum taxation of business. And that is what the government must push towards. And that is what we are pushing towards. And so you must create other sources of revenue. And I will come back to that. You will agree, and I have said it, that taxation and privatization, unlike taxation, reduces wealth. But privatization does not reduce wealth. Actually, privatization enhances, helps you to find a place where you can invest. Like now, if we privatize KPC, Kenya Pipeline, it is coming to you now directly. Those of you who have money to spare, some little money to spare, you can buy shares now in KPC. But I will explain to you into details to allay all these fears. And I'm happy you have raised them. Because some people raise them in funerals. Some distort them. Now we have a forum where I can explain to you and allay the fears. I will do it. I will spend about 3 to 5 minutes to allay those fears. Now I think I'm almost concluding my official speech. So now I'm back to a page and a half. So don't be tired. Don't get tired. Tutamaliza tu. So my friends, our economy is at a critical turning point. Our economy is at a critical turning point. And to sustain the economic achievements that we have realized this far, both from a macro and fiscal perspectives, like inflation, like interest rates, like currency stabilization, like GDP growth, we must turn to innovative financing mechanisms to fund infrastructure and public service projects. As the financial needs of the government continue to outpace our available public resources, private sector participation has become a critical tool in addressing infrastructure gaps, enhancing service delivery, and promoting sustainable development. There are many success stories on privatization. That is where I want to end. Many success stories. This Safaricom we are talking about today, and by the way, we are not privatizing Safaricom. Safaricom is already private as we speak, even without doing anything. Safaricom was privatized long before, several years back. We are only divesting, meaning we are shedding off more. Safaricom used to be 100% owned by the government. During Moi's government, we released 40%. During Kibaki government, we released 25%. Total, 65%. And the 40% we released went to Vodacom. The 25% we released went to you and I, Kenyans. And other international players, but individuals. Now the 15% we are offloading now will go to, again, to Vodacom. And I will tell you why that is so. But apart from Safaricom, let me just talk about Safaricom first. By the time when Safaricom was being privatized, it was just a department in government, a small thing, a small entity, not even efficient at all. Look at what the giant we have today. If we still held to it, this is our national jewel. Security will be compromised, etc. We would still be having that shell. Probably it would be dead by now because of the government inefficiency. But we decided to release Safaricom to the private sector. And now it is the most profitable company, not just in Kenya, in the region, East and Central Africa. There is no more profitable company than Safaricom. But let me tell you, the telco sector, telecommunication sector is dynamic. It changes by the day. You must be responsive. You cannot just sit back and say we are big, we are giant. Giants have fallen. You need heavy investment continuously. Safaricom is expanding to Ethiopia. It will probably expand to another jurisdiction. If we still hold shares, a lot of shares as government, and the company requires more money, do you know what will happen? They will do what we call in finance capital call. They say, oh, shareholders, we need more money. We need 50 billion. Shareholders, give us the money. The government of Kenya, your percentage out of 50 billion is 20 billion. I am seated there at the treasury, I'm doing my math and calculation, and I'm saying, do I put money in capitation? Do I put money in health? Look, I think you are the one who spoke about it. Health require more funding. People are dying. Lecturers are on strike. Medics are at Upper Hill, Duale's office, shouting on top of their voices. Counties are saying they need more resources. They want to go on strike. The COG chairman has called a press conference. Our staff want. So you're asking, do I put money in schools or do I put money in Safaricom? Do I put money in health or do I put money in Safaricom? The decision will be, I have not enough money. I will only put money in schools. I'll put money for lecturers' pay. You Safaricom inaweza ngoja. But the law in business is this. Once a company makes a call and you are not able as a shareholder to meet your part of the bargain, the other partners will come in and will buy your shareholding, whether you like it or not. And by the end of the day, our capital will dilute, whether we are ready for it or not. And we will not even get a shilling. They will take it for free. It has happened with KCB before. Kenya Commercial Bank. Our shares as a government was diluted by other shareholders because we were not able. So if you insist in keeping too huge shareholding in a progressive company like Safaricom, you are risking, my friend. And that is what some of these people are not telling you. Either because they don't know, or even if they know, they want to play politics with something so significant. And don't tell me why hasn't it happened before. If it has not happened before, it does not mean it will not happen. If you are what you are sold, sitting in an office, you must be progressive in thinking. And I've told you it has happened with the KCB. Why can't it happen with Safaricom? And the Safaricom is expanding. They will need more resources to invest. Then we need to release some of the shares so that we don't retain so much share ownership. Secondly, even with 20%, if this company is going to be run even much better and make more profit, we can get more dividend than we are getting with 35%. When we held 100% of shares in Safaricom, how much dividend were we getting? Ilikuwa kidogo sana. Saa hii with only 35%, we were getting about 16 billion per year. What makes you think we cannot even get 20 billion per year with 20% shareholding if the company is run properly? And we will have also received 240 billion. Let me say 204, because 40 is a dividend in advance. 204, and we are giving up how much per month, per year? We are giving up about 6 billion, 7 billion per year. How many years will it take you to recoup your 204? 30. That is, you have not even factored the time value of money, because 200 billion received today is not the same 200 billion we will be receiving in tranches kidogo kidogo as we go forward. Now, that is what we are trying to do. And when we get this money, and I will explain to you where this money is going. But before, there are concerns about data protection, about our security as a country. The operations and decisions of security, data protection is not governed by shareholders. Even right now, we only own 35%. But the government still controls. The law of Kenya still dictates how our data is protected. The data protection is protected by law. Data protection is not a function of share ownership where you go and sit and decide, now we can release the data. No, the rules, regulations, the legal framework of the country is what dictates data. Let me ask you about Airtel. Is Airtel not doing the same thing as Safaricom? It's only that Safaricom is bigger. They also have your data. Are your data not protected? Those of us who have Airtel lines. Why is it protected yet Airtel is 100% foreign owned? The government has 0 shares in Airtel. The people of Kenya have 0 in Safaricom. It is owned by foreign investors. And it has our data almost the same way Safaricom has our data. So whoever is telling us about that, our data will be exposed. You don't understand how this thing works. The data protection is protected under the Data Protection Act. There is a communication authority. Even when Safaricom participates in the electoral process by relaying the information to Bomas of Kenya, it is not the government shareholder who decides what they should do. It is the law, the regulations, the rules, and the engagement that IEBC has with the company. And we are protecting this company even with this divestiture. The ownership, the management is still going to be Kenyan. It is a Kenyan citizen who is going to be the CEO. The board membership of 2 is going to be maintained. All independent board members will still be Kenyan. So there is nothing we are losing here. Let me now come to a conclusion on how are we going to use this money. The concerns you have is what we are also trying to cure at the national government level. We don't want to get this money and start paying salaries and start paying recurrent expenditure, because that is what has been done before. We are creating a national infrastructure fund, and we are also creating what we call sovereign wealth fund. These 2 funds have a function. The sovereign wealth fund will have a small portion of this, the proceeds of this divestiture and privatization, about 10%, to protect money for the future generation so that our grandchildren don't ask us, where did you take Safaricom? Where did you take KPC? We are leaving some money in sovereign wealth fund for the future. Kenya has not had sovereign wealth fund, yet Botswana has. A country like Norway has sovereign wealth fund which can fund their budget forever. They don't need to tax their people or do anything. They have money that they have loaned to other sovereign states and giving them money. The Eurobonds we are buying, some of them it is money from Norway that we are getting to fund our budget. They have money, we just pay them every year. We are paying them and they are running their affairs without even taxing their people. That is where Kenyans should be. Even if it is not in our generation, we should start it for the next generation. So that 100 years from today, Kenya can be able to run. Don't be selfish. Don't ask yourself, why do we think about 100 years? If our great-grandfathers were never selfish, we would be in a better position today. I don't know whether I'm communicating to anyone. Am I speaking to anyone in the room? Let me convert myself into a preacher. Am I talking to anyone there? National Infrastructure Fund. What is it all about? People have not understood this fund. Many people ask me questions that clearly are irrelevant. So I realize Kenyans have not understood what we are trying to do. What we are saying is this. The economy we have today is struggling still. It was worse. Let me just share this with you, ladies and gentlemen. When I got into this ministry, and I'm sure many of you followed, I lost weight terribly. I thought of running away from the ministry. But I said, if I run away, who will do it? Someone must do it. Because I got into the ministry, and unafika 15th of the following month, na hata hujamaliza kulipa mshahara ya wafanyakazi wa serikali. And the debts are coming for payment. You don't know whether you are going to pay or not. We say this every day, some of you think it is a joke. IMF categorized Kenya among 5 other countries in Africa which were going to default. Not if, when. All those 5 countries have defaulted. It's only Kenya which has not defaulted. And by the way, you people don't know what a sovereign debt default means. If a country defaults in paying debt, the first thing is all public servants must take salary cuts. For us to be bailed out by IMF, World Bank, they will come and tell us, okay, you have found yourself in a mess. We have to clean you. You are dirty. To clean you, you start with yourself. Everybody, 50% pay cut. You must rationalize. Some of the staff must go home. The chiefs, if you have 10,000 chiefs, 5,000 to go home, only 5,000 remains. I'm giving just an example. MCAs, you have 1,450 wards, reduced by half. You have 290 constituencies, reduced by half. I'm giving you what probably would have happened to Kenya if we defaulted. It was terrible. We were in a bad situation. But we have, in my view, and don't doubt this, we have come out of that problem. Because even IMF have said, okay, hii mmeponyoka. Tumeponyoka. That is why the government which was there before, we reached 2024, February. Eurobond is coming up for payment of 260 billion in June. And there was no plan put in place because the government that was there knew they were leaving anyway, so they didn't care. Fortunately for this government, and I say God loves this government. Hata kama unasema one term, hiyo ni yako, hiyo ni ya shetani. Mungu anapenda hii serikali, we will have 2 terms. And I will tell you why. Something that no one ever expected. The market opened and this government went to the market, got another Eurobond and refinanced the other Eurobond. It was luck. I will tell you, it was not any economic magic. It was luck for the country of Kenya. But that luck, we didn't want it to extend further. That is why last year, in February, March, because we were aware that another Eurobond is coming up for payment in 2027, May, just a few months to election. Another huge one, we decided to deal with it earlier. And we managed it. That risk was taken out. In September, again we dealt with 2028. We didn't want to behave like the other government, which decided to leave the rest, watajisort after uchaguzi. We could have also thought the same and say 2028, hiyo ni mbali. Sitakuwa after uchaguzi. No. This government has taken a proactive approach and has managed the liability of 2028. So the only risk now we have is 2031. 2031, we have moved from the possible default to 2031. That we will still deal with. So, ladies and gentlemen, msisema hii serikali hakuna kazi inafanya. It is because maybe we are not sharing with you the challenges we are going through. And those challenges must be dealt with. And God has put me in this position as one of the key persons to deal with this. I must help. I must work for the people of Kenya. So I was explaining that now we have an economy that is growing at 5%. Let me tell you, with the number of population, with the population growth we have in Kenya, and the number of Kenyans coming out of colleges and universities, who are well-trained, educated, who have basically taken all our wealth. Those of us who have ng'ombe, you have exchanged your ng'ombe with a certificate. Sindio? If that certificate becomes useless, then you go into abject poverty. That certificate needs to translate into something. If it is now your wealth, these people should be employed. They need jobs. Kenya will not create enough jobs for our youth if we don't grow at 7% or 7.5% the economy. But for us to grow the economy, We cannot stay with the infrastructure we have today. We cannot be complacent with the infrastructure we have today. You are all complaining about roads. We must access the markets. If you have a motorbike, you want to get your wares or whatever it is, mboga, you rush to the market and in the next 30 minutes you are there. You don't want to take 6 hours where you should take 5 minutes, 30 minutes. So roads. Irrigation. This country cannot feed itself by relying on the generosity of God all the time. Rain. We must irrigate. Our airport, you saw the president speak about it yesterday. It's a shame. It is terrible. For an economy which is the largest in the region. We are number 1 in East and Central Africa. We are number 6 in Africa. Only defeated by South Africa in the south, Nigeria in the west, and Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco in the north. Then you have such an airport. And yet Ethiopia has better airports. And that now Rwanda, a tiny country like this, has a better airport. We are losing our advantage as the regional logistic hub of this region. Just because of some politics. I'm trying to be very polite, you know. Sometimes I don't want to call it idiocy. But again, that is what it is. So, how do we do these things? I know, can we tax you to do airport? Do you want to pay more taxes? If you want to pay more taxes, put up your hand. So if you don't want to pay more taxes, and I also agree with you, I don't want to pay more taxes. And imagine, I don't want to pay more taxes. What about you? Number 2, do you want us to continue borrowing more and more to do these things? So if those two, if you have close to those two, where do we get money to do the airports? We can go PPP, but PPP has risks. You know, every public infrastructure has risk. If we have to do roads and toll them, there is risk. If we have to do airport, there is risk. If we have to do water and irrigate, there is risk. So to reduce that risk, government should put in some money, and then we invite the private sector. If the cost of doing airport is 200 billion, and the government puts 50 billion, we can now reach out to institutional investors and tell them we have already put our 50 billion, and this project is profitable, we do the design and we convince them. Then now they bring in 150 billion and we do the airport. And by the way, the airport will pay for itself. That is what we need to do. And that is why we are creating this fund, the National Infrastructure Fund, so that we have a seed capital. This seed money, we will only put it in commercially viable projects. Partner with you, then we free the budget where we were putting all the roads, all the irrigation, all energy. We free the budget. And the money that we free will now go to education. Will go to health. Will go to social interventions. That is how to work or grow the economy. I know I have a lot to say, but let me now progress to conclude. Irrigation, again, I want to give you one example of irrigation and energy, then I end. Irrigation, this country is food deficient, especially maize production, by about, and I'm happy I'm in Western and Nyanza, without ugali, no food. Ama namna gani, mume change. So, the maize that we consume, we need between 10 million bags and 15 million bags to be food sufficient. Galana Kulalu, we have done an experiment. We have just harvested on 1,500 acres. What we need in Galana Kulalu is a dam of 40 billion maximum. It's between 30, 40 billion. If we do that dam, we are going to irrigate 200,000 acres. And this is what 1 acre has produced in Galana Kulalu. 30 to 35 bags. Take the lowest, 30 bags. And you can now plant twice because you are irrigating. So in a year, 60 bags. Times 200,000 acres, 12 million bags. You have already sorted out the food situation in the country. And this is achievable. Why don't we do it? Lastly, lastly is the energy. Nyinyi kila saa power blackout. Ama hapa Kakamega power is reliable. You cast Wandai every day. Wandai anafanya kazi gani? Where, you know, Kenya, we generate only 3,000 megawatts. But we need no less than 10,000 megawatts. We need to generate more power. And power can pay itself. You are paying power. Unaanza, you are in your workshop, you have a tender of 100,000, you are competing with the time to complete your tender, then stima imeenda. It's affecting business. We want to generate more power in this country, at least 10,000 megawatts, to be able to sustain a progressive and industrial country. We will talk about manufacturing industrial forever. We will not succeed. Even these Skypes that the governor talked about will never take off without reliable energy. So that is what we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why I want to persuade you. We have formed a company already to manage this fund. We wanted to manage professionally this National Infrastructure Fund. We don't want a fund that will be managed at the National Treasury alone. No, we want a company that is given the responsibility of managing this fund. The projects will be designed, they will be approved, Parliament will be involved, so that we have this fund to solve our infrastructure projects or problems. So let me address your issues quickly, those ones which I have not responded to, then I finish. My friend Peter, you gave me a lot of information that I would want you to put down in writing, and then we'll act on a lot on especially on the issues of taxation. On projects, the roads, this is what I want us to take out of this. Projects that are ongoing in Kakamega. I want us to have a list of all those projects so that we enhance the budget, they get completed. Because I think, I want to agree with you, I have had a lot of complaints that Western, most particularly Kakamega, probably we are not giving you proper attention. And let me remind you, Kakamega is the largest rural county in Kenya. Forget about Nairobi and Kiambu. Kiambu is no longer rural. They benefit a lot from Nairobi. The largest rural county in Kenya is Kakamega. And so you cannot ignore Kakamega. My coming here, and I want to get those projects, and you will see in the budget allocation that we have enhanced budgetary provision so that those projects, especially if you have some major roads here which are facing challenges, please, we will take up those matters and make sure that we allocate resources for your projects to complete them. But you will also agree with me, members, that the national government has not forgotten you completely, because we are doing Bukungu Stadium. It's probably after the stadium in Nairobi, after the 3 stadium, Bukungu will be the 4th in terms of size. Forget about the others being done even in Mutembei. Hizo ni za local matches. The only stadium we'll have in Kenya after Talanta is Bukungu. I know, because I sit on the table. So this talk that we are not thinking about Kakamega is not correct. It's not correct. But we can do more, isn't it? Yeah, let's talk about doing more. So let me tell you, since Moi did Kasarani, Kibaki did no stadium, Uhuru did no stadium of international standard where we can play matches. It's only Ruto who has done Talanta and now doing Buhungu. So, hospitali. Hiyo hospitali ilianzishwa na county government. Si ndio? Na Oparanya. Tumeweka pesa hapo and the KDF is going to complete it this year. Ndiye ikuwe another level 6. Imagine the whole of this region from Migori covering Kisii, Nyamira, paka I don't know, is it Bungoma mwisho huku ama ni Kakamega? Ni Bungoma. We have not had any level 6 since Kenya got independence. Right now we are going to have 3. Kisumu, Jomo Kenyatta, Jaramogi, Kakamega, and Bungoma. And you know what? Kakamega has got a huge allocation for infrastructure. Bungoma is also getting money from African Development Bank in billions. 2 hospitals here. Sasa zingine nashangaa nyinyi. Kwa nini mnachukia hii serikali na inaendelea na inafanya kazi mzuri? Ama mjachukua hii serikali? Mko sawa? But so I want to give you my word. The roads that are ongoing, we will make sure we put more money on those roads. I will talk with my colleague, and he's a very listening minister, Churchill. We put money. I will tell him we prioritize those roads which have taken years to conclude. And all roads that are stalled. Uhuru left all roads in this country stalled. Akikuja hapa naona mnashangilia yes, and I don't even know. But I think when someone leaves office, people forget, which is okay. Because I will also leave office, forget about the bad things I've done. But the truth is that road construction in this country is stalled. It is this government which has restarted the roads. Sendio? And we will make sure that these roads are completed so that Kenyans get services. Let me move quickly because sijaingia maneno ya siasa hapo. I think I've addressed, in fact, what I did was to address most of these things in my discussion around the national infrastructure and around privatization. But there are specific things like women empowerment, water, allocation to water resources. But you see, for Kakamega town, see, I have been helping you through my ministry, Floka. You are going to have some water running. We will fast track that process. I don't know whether it is complete or it is nearing completion. It is nearing completion. Hapo mungenipigia makofi bwana. Hiyo ni pesa imetoka kwa National Treasury tukipartner na county government. Si ndio? County government wameweka, lakini national government imeweka zaidi. Sasa makofi ni yangu. Ya pili ni ya Governor Barasa. MCS, PW, we have taken note of all the issues that you have raised. I just want to conclude now because tumekaa hapa sana. Sindio? Prioritizing health sector, correct. I agree. Cancer, imagine the whole of this region. The whole of this region, if you want to be treated, so you go to Moi Teaching and Referral or Nairobi. It's unfair. So, watcha, and you know, I took notes. I was writing as you people were speaking. And I have also asked my team here to give me in writing some of the issues they raised. Let me now conclude. I'm being reminded about controller of budget issue. We will talk to her. But you know, a controller of budget, sometimes I'm reluctant to comment because it's an independent office. It's an independent office, but I agree with you. Sometimes even me, I get very frustrated. But I don't want to appear like I'm attacking another public officer in public. There are things that we sort out in-house, because otherwise that would be a dysfunctional government. Let me raise issues that you have raised with me, with her. She's my professional colleague, we are friends. Actually, we have interacted a lot, although sometimes I also get frustrated. But again, we should also not make control of budget like how do I put it? Like be taking instructions from us. Because again, we compromise on independence and just like Auditor General. So we must give them space, independence, but at the same time, we must ask them, please make sure you don't frustrate government functions. So that is what we are saying. Now, wacha nimalize. Na nikikuchokoza, please forgive me. If I make you angry, please just forgive me. You know, mimi ni member wa ODM. And I'm not about to leave. So those of us in this room who are members of ODM, allow me to speak to you. Let me tell you, if we want to remain relevant, because I have looked at the demographics of this country and nothing tribal. That is the reality. We are still wired on those ethnic lines. There are people who have bigger population than us. Our unity is what makes us relevant. If we start creating small village parties, we are heading nowhere. We are heading nowhere. I would tell you without blinking an eye. If you want to manage people, divide them. Divide them. Hii chama cha ODM, if I were you, people from Nyanza, Western, tungeshikilia. It doesn't matter who is at the top. It can be a lawyer today, a lawyer tomorrow, a lawyer today, a lawyer tomorrow, or even someone from the coast. Because these are the regions which support the party, largely. So long as our unity gives us a bargaining power. If there are mistakes we have committed in the past, let us sit down and say, yes, Mbadi, we gave you this thing and you only thought about Homabay. We are removing you and giving it to Barasa. So that we see if Barasa is also only thinking about Kakamega. What I am saying is, why don't we remain a people? Because we are united. You can choose your friends, you can choose your relatives, but you can never choose your neighbor. It is God who gives you your neighbor. We are neighbors as not a community, but as communities living here. You know, I have been reading about the history of the lawyers. And I'm also reading about the history of the Luos. There's a gentleman who has written something. Sometimes you ask yourself, are these lawyers not Bantus? Are you not Bantus? Are Luos not Nilots? But how come these two communities have a way of understanding each other? How come lawyers don't understand Kambas as they understand Luos? And they are both Bandus. How come Luos cannot understand Turkanas the way they understand lawyers? It's because God put them together and they decided to marry. Mpaka sasa hata the face of marriage imefanya the face of a lawyer and a Luo, you can never tell. Nilikaa hapa mnasema ati hata ukiangalia sura ya Mbadi ni ya Mluya direct. Hata jina ni hivyo. So let me tell you, and this is not anything ethnic, the people from this region, the best we can do is to still remain intact. Even if we have more than one party, let those two parties or three parties work together. But if we cheat ourselves that we can put ourselves in some cocoons and corners, that Luos now remain alone. And that is why I am very unhappy with the Luos who think ODM belongs to the Luos. Because even if we have had parties which belong to Luos before. Where did those parties take us? We had a party called KPU. It was largely for the Luos. We had NDP, which was led by Raila Odinga. I don't want to talk about Ford and Ford Kenya because they were a bit national. NDP was purely a Luo party. Raila had to look for ways of expanding, and then we got to ODM. We became national. We have Coast, we have Western, we have Nyanza, we have Turkana, we have Masai, we have Northeastern. Then now we want to split again and form ourselves into small cocoons because of unnecessary fights and people going to Sijui Wamunyoro. Wamunyoro has declared that he doesn't want to think about any person. His mind is fixed in Mount Kenya. It is Mount Kenya. Even schools, he's saying national schools which are in Mount Kenya, Aluya should not go there. That is what he's saying. Why do you want to work with such a person? Who is telling you any school in Central Alliance should belong to them? And we know Alliance has been funded by our taxes. That is what has made Alliance. That is what has made Mangu. That is what has made Maseno. It is not the money of the Luos which have made Maseno what it is today. How many Luos have contributed to the development of Maranda? It's national resources. Your children who go there make the population big. Capitation goes there. Capitation ni pesa hata ya Turukana iko hapo. Then you wake up and a person who should be intelligent enough, who calls himself a national leader, and then you are telling Kenyans the schools in this region should only belong to people in that region. Shame on him. And then you find some people coming from this region also want to form an alliance with such a person. Even if you hate Ruto, you better stay on your own. Even if you hate Ruto, please stay on your own. When they ushindwe hapo peke yako, you win your seat at independent, unakasi kuna independent MPs in parliament. But it is a shame to think of working together with people with such a mindset. I don't know kama nimekosea mtu, lakini that is what is in my mind and I have spoken it. So let me wind up by saying, let us work together. Raila left us. He's gone. We will not bring Raila back. Whether we like it or not. We must look for replacement of Raila. And that replacement of Raila will not be a Raila. Will be another person. And there is no leader who has no weaknesses. All of us have weaknesses, including Raila himself. We must get a person, and that person should not announce himself. There is no time Raila announced himself that I'm now the leader. We made him the leader. He became our leader. We followed him religiously. Whatever he told us to do, we did. Jump, we jumped. Go left, we went. Go right, we went. So it is you to look for a leader amongst us, and we are many. Just identify, get that leader in front. It doesn't have to take a day. It will take months. It will take years, but we'll get a leader. Raila did not become the leader just immediately. In fact, there were people who Kenyans thought would take over Ford Kenya and lead. We had Kijana Wamalwa, he led for a period. We had Orengo, we thought he would lead. Orengo didn't lead. Raila led because God chose him and people saw him and people followed him. A leader is going to emerge among us. We will see him, we'll identify him, and he will lead the people. In the meantime, what we need, unity. What we need is what? Unity. Sawa sawa. Kama nimekosea mtu, tafadhali mnisamehe. 2027, we are going into election. If you look at this election of 2027, the battle line is already drawn. There is a team here with Ruto and another team with this other opposition. We have to choose where to strategically position ourselves. And as we go there, we must also tell whoever we are going to, and I think it is Ruto. We must tell him, as you leave, a person from this region must succeed you in 2032. We will give you that person when the time comes, but you must make sure that you help that person ascend to power. That is what we need to do. Otherwise, asanteni sana. Nimeongea mengi sana, mtanisamehe, but it is because I never come to Kakamega, bunge la wananchi. Don't just ask me if you want. No, tell me we are going to invite you to come. Nyinyi mnakaa hapo mnaongea maneno ya siasa vizuri, you give our people direction, na hata economic empowerment hakuna. Hata bank account hamna. Inatakana, my friend chairman. Are you the president or you are the speaker? You are the president. Invite me. Pesa kidogo niko naye, nilete, I give you empowerment, you run an outfit that makes sense. Ama namna gani? So utani invite Kakamega, nimechukua namba ya huyu, I'm going to talk to you, I come. Na wamama pia. Sawa sawa. Otherwise asanteni sana, Mungu awabariki. I hope you guys you sit because you have to be sorted. Sindio? Watu